Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fad Show. So in tonight's episode, I'm going to be replacing some leaky power steering components on my E39 M5. So ever since I got my E39, it's been leaking like the Exxon Valdez. On the last episode, we went ahead and replaced the leaking oil pan. So that's all. So now I'm going to move forward and start working on power steering. So I have a new suction and return line. These are like the two flexible kind of like, I don't know, braided lines for the power steering. Both of the ones that are currently on my car are definitely leaking. Like you can just see the power steering coming through them, and there's definitely a really big power steering leak from this like very front left-hand corner of the car. There are two other power steering lines that are hard piped. Those are a lot more expensive, and you can only buy them from BMW. They're like $300 a line. So I'm going to start with these. I think this is going to solve the problem, but if not, then I'll just come back and bite the bullet and order those more expensive BMW ones. But I'm really confident that this is going to go ahead and solve my problem. I think the biggest part of this job is just going to be cleanup. I think replacing the hoses is going to be pretty straightforward. But yeah, it's been leaking power steering fluid for a long time. So yeah, I'm gonna just be doing a lot of cleanup so I can monitor going forward and try and pinpoint exactly where the leak's coming from if I don't end up correcting it. And to do that, I'm just gonna be using a steam cleaner and Simple Green. You can use brake clean, but it's kind of expensive to do a big cleanup job like that with brake clean. So I just use my steam cleaner and some Simple Green and had pretty good results with it. So with that, let's get started. So the first step is just going to be to remove the air box, so we'll go ahead and get that done. I've never done this on E39, so I'm going to be learning with you. I also have new air filters too that I'm going to go ahead and replace once I go ahead and put everything back together. And I hate these style filters. I'm gonna put some proper paper filters in. Where the bottom part of this air box, or for the air box, looks like it's gonna be a 10 millimeter. And I'll go ahead and thread this back so I don't forget where it goes. Here you can see the culprit. Looks like even, the reservoirs, I don't know if it's a reservoir itself or this connection here, but you can see it's just been running all down the side here and down into the abyss. It does look like, it does appear just to be these flexible hoses, hopefully, because this one is one that transitions into one of the metal ones, which has a little bit on it, but that could just be from the leaks elsewhere. But yeah, it looks pretty nasty. And then also just make sure you pay attention to the arrangement of these hoses because it's pretty confusing how they go. Luckily I'll have the video to look back on. I'll also probably go ahead and take a picture on my camera just so I route the new ones the same way. I think it's also safe to say I need a valve cover gasket on this side, so I guess that will be coming up in the future too. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drain the power steering fluid just by taking off the suction line. I'm going to open the cap to the reservoir. That'll probably help it drain. And from this angle, you can see the routing of the suction hose and how disgustingly dirty it is. Doesn't look like the hard piped is leaking at all. I really think it's just these. But I'm going to go ahead and get all this cleaned up. All right, next I'm going to try and remove this nut that holds the lines into the power steering cooler. It looks like it's a 13, and yes, it is. Cooler too. or go ahead and remove the reservoir too. I guess now I'll just disconnect these lines here and try and push everything down to the pan. I'm just gonna take this whole thing and throw it in the trash since I'm not. All right, since I'm using steam, I went ahead and put a shopping bag over the alternator. And now I'm just gonna spray everything down with Simple Green. And I'm just gonna go to town with the steam cleaner and some microfiber rags. This thing definitely was leaking for a long time. You would think like anyone who worked on this car would have noticed. Here you can see how incredibly dirty it was. There's just like all this sludge and like rocks of power steering fluid and dirt that came out. It was disgusting. It's not 100% better, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. Since these mounts for the reservoir were broken or just really degraded or whatever, I went ahead and made these little cuts out of rubber. I just drilled them out and made these little squares or whatever. Put these ones on, and then when I put the reservoir down, hopefully it'll just like clamp this all down. And then I am gonna buy new ones, obviously. This is just to get me by. I'm really not sure if I have to order this whole bracket or can I just remove these. These have like weird square nuts on the back of them. That would be a lot of work to get out, but I guess I'll figure it out. For now, this will probably work fine. So here's the bracket installed. Obviously this isn't tightened down yet. I think this will hold me over until I can get new ones of those rubber bushings, I guess. So the Ryan hoses I bought didn't come with new O-rings for the connection to the cooler, but luckily I have this universal O-ring kit. I was able to find one that I think will work. If not, I guess I'll just, again, have to add it to the list of parts to order. Oops, let's spray some silicone on this. The other line. All right, now I'm putting on the suction line. This one has one of the hose clamps that you need, like the special set of pliers to crimp, which I do have, although we'll see how it goes. I might just use a regular hose clamp. Also, as far as the routing goes, I'm gonna try and figure that out afterwards. At the end of the day, I try to get it factory, but at the same token, it's not rocket science as long as there's a flow path and it's not going to hit anything or get burnt on the exhaust. That's all that matters. That one actually came out pretty good, despite not having a lot of room to work. All right, now let's go do the suction one and then we'll try and figure out the alignment. All right, now we'll go ahead and put the suction line back on. I'm pretty happy with the routing so far. It's got plenty of power steering fluid on still. Try and get it right in the middle there. And these clamps actually do work pretty good when you have room to work with them. Supposedly they're better because they like squeeze it all the way around. I don't know. They work. Just to buy these. These are like a cheap Amazon set. Here's the routing of the hoses from down below. I'm pretty happy with it. Doesn't look like there's anything it's going to interfere with. It's pretty far away from the first exhaust header. In the future I might zip tie it to the motor mount, but I'm about to change the motor mount, so I'm going to leave that for now. And then there's the clip, I don't know if you can see it on camera, between the two hoses that was never hooked up before, so I'm not really sure where it goes. I put it there. It seems to hold that suction hose just a little bit away from the exhaust, which is what I was looking for. All right, now that everything's back together, I'm gonna go ahead and fill the system with some liquid moly ATF Top Tech 1200. Have no idea if it's any good. It's just, I think what liquid moly or FCP Aero said for this. I don't remember. It's red, so you'll be able to see if there's any leaks. So I'm just gonna fill it up right now with just like static, and just let static pressure act on the system and then check it for leaks. And then you need to start the car, get the pump running, and then get all the air out of it and keep filling it up. Turn the wheels side to side. I'm not gonna do that tonight because currently it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I have a feeling that the air in the system is gonna make a horrible screech. And yeah, I guess I will be nice to my neighbors and my girlfriend tonight. I guess first I'll inspect here. Looks pretty good. Hoses aren't leaking. Oh, we have a leak here. Of course. Oh, I never tightened this down. So it definitely helps when you tighten the bolt down because it looks like now we're good and there's no leak. Lines look good. Reservoir itself looks good. Let's go check down below. We're gonna get remnants from that last foobar, we'll say. That looks good. I mean, really, it's not gonna leak until you have pressure on the system. But no static leaks, I guess is a good start. And tomorrow, I'll go ahead and start it. I just have too much respect for neighbors and girlfriend tonight. Hey guys, so slight change in plans to the episode. I decided I wasn't going to take any shortcuts, and I just went ahead and ordered the steering box returned to the cooler. This one has this short, flexible section, which I'm sure if it's not already leaking, will be at some point. Also, I realized the first time I did this job, I didn't order a new gasket for this position also, so I just had the one new gasket going to the cooler. So I have 2 new gaskets, 2 new banjo bow crush washers for the hard line on this, and then I got the new mounts for the power steering reservoir. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace this line too. This one is a little bit more challenging. It's really difficult to get to this banjo bolt, which is a 24 millimeter nut. You have to get to it from above because there's no way to get to it from down below, and then trying to position both these crush washers is going to be a little bit of a challenge, but I think I have an idea for that. So let's get to it. And here's the location. You can kind of maybe see it down there, the 24 millimeter banjo bolt that you have to get out for the return from the steering box. Yeah, not sure there's going to be anything worth filming here other than I'm going to use a 24 millimeter wrench with a union on it and hopefully be able to get it. I'm going to go ahead and drain the whole system from the cooler, which is probably not ideal, but I don't want to undo the connection on the pump that I just put that pinch clamp on there. So I don't have a new one of those, so I'm going to try and do this from here. And I just did this and I'm already forgetting what size things are. So for this return line, there's one more, after you get that 24 millimeter banjo bolt, there's one more 10 millimeter here that holds this line. So I just used a tiny dab on the outside of the sealing surface for the crush washers. So the 2 crush washers are stuck on either side and they're not going anywhere, hopefully. Yeah, it's gonna be really difficult to see that they're still in place when you fish this in there, but hopefully I'll be able to. I don't think they're gonna go anywhere. So in order to get everything in place here, like I said, I super glued the crush washers on. I then kind of sort of lined up the line where it needed to go. Then I was able to place the banjo bolt in using a magnet, just a really light powered magnet, so I could wiggle it off once it was in place. Then I was able to get the 24mm socket in place. I loosened the line holder to the frame or whatever, and I was able to just kind of move the line ever so slightly while I was turning the extension, and eventually everything kind of just came together. So now I'm just going to go ahead and tighten it down. I guess I'll look up the torque spec and give you that if I can find it. If not, I'm just going to go good and tight to make sure I crush these washers. So I did find a torque spec of 35 newton meters. It doesn't really seem like enough to crush the banjo bolt to me, but we'll give it a go. Super glue I put in the washers. Like, that doesn't feel enough to crush the washers, but I guess this is like a huge leverage arm here. So these cooler mounts or whatever are studs. So since I have new ones, I'm just going to use vice grips to take them out. And then to tighten them down, they don't have to be super tight, but I'll just use the two nuts to make the lock nut and tighten it down. So again, I'm using vice grips on the stud just to turn it. Might be here for a while. No, never mind. And then I'll go ahead and thread these new mounts in. Looks like they're the same either way. Since these gave you a little bit of a taper, I'm just going to go ahead, or not taper, since it gives you a little bit of a whatever surface there, I'm just going to turn these with this channel locks. Does not have to be tight at all. Gravity itself is going to hold these in. Once the reservoir was reinstalled, I reinstalled the air filter box and a new paper man air filter. I will admit I kind of dropped the ball on filming bleeding the system since I did it twice. I simply filled the reservoir to the top. I started the car for about 5 to 10 seconds, turned it off, checked the level in the reservoir. It will go down quite a bit. I then filled it to the proper level, turned the steering rack back and forth, checked the level again, and then I took the car for a test drive. And the first few drives after replacing everything, I checked the level and filled up as needed. So that's a wrap on this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I apologize if it got a little bit long-winded, but it was a pretty long process and I wanted to document it every step of the way. I do apologize. I kind of dropped the ball on that bleeding the system at the end, but I think I explained it and it's pretty easy to do. So I've driven the car about 200 miles since completing all the work, and I'm happy to report that I don't see any power steering leaks. I lifted the belly pans off. I have cardboard under the car and I haven't seen any drops. I have had to add just like the ever so slightest amount of ATF, and I think that's just due to getting all the air bubbles out of the system. But I'll keep checking it, and I guess let you know if it turns out poorly. But I'm really glad that I decided to go ahead and replace that steering rack to cooler line 2. I think that was kind of taking the easy way out, not doing it originally. So hopefully everything will be good going forward. I hope you guys like this episode. If you really liked it, as always, please like and subscribe. I'm at like 902 subscribers, closing the way to 1,000, where I can get ad revenue or whatever, and maybe pay for like 1 quart of oil a month. But I have a lot of cars, and they use a lot of oil, so that'd be greatly helping me out. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, and stay tuned for next time.